This is the new Wisdom Audio powered S10, and the back of the unit has a 500 watt built-in DSP amplifier with full feature capability. We're going to take a look at the online GUI. This can be accessed with the USB connection on the back of the subwoofer to a standard USB connection on your computer. And we have multiple screens. What's nice about this GUI is all of these controls are also available on the back of the subwoofer on a small screen with a knob, and we will go through those as well. So your first screen up here shows you your volume and phase. So I can turn the level of the woofer up and down, just what you see right here. And then you can also change the phase, and you can go all the way from 0 up to 180 degrees. Which is very nice to be able to do depending on where it's located in the room and how the relationship is with the other speakers in your room. Low pass filter is very simple. It's just what it is. That can be adjusted all the way from 30 hertz all the way up to 125 hertz. You can turn it on and off. And then you can also switch to a 24 dB slope. So if you need a steeper slope to better blend with your main channels, you can certainly do that. This is for the low pass of your subwoofer. There's also a subsonic filter. It's got a preset at 25 hertz. You can turn it on or off. We recommend leaving it on, especially in higher output applications, as it helps to protect the subwoofer itself. And again, you can change the slope on this one to 12 or 24 dB per octave slope, and that can rise all the way up to 40 hertz. So again, depending on what you're using it for and what you need it to protect, that's where you would change that right there. Next, we have our actual PEQs. There's factory PEQs loaded into the subwoofer when you get it. So when you take it out of the box and plug it in, it is ready to go. You do not need to do anything. Just plug it in, turn it on, and play. If you want to make adjustments, then you can certainly do that. There's 5 separate PEQs in here. You can change both frequency, the gain, how much or up or down you want to cut a certain frequency. And then you can also change the width of the Q of that center frequency. So in this example, we've got 50 hertz. We're going to make it 51. We're going to make it 50. So we have an easy, way to see that right here. So that's this PEQ right here. So you can see as I move it up and down to cut the boost, which is also similar to the slider, you can see the width of that curve that I'm affecting. The lower this number, the wider this will be. So as I do this, you can see how it changes how much of that frequency it's going to affect. As I make it a bigger number, it gets much narrower. To use these controls, you really want to be able to measure with some measurement software, a microphone, pink noise. You'll want to be able to generate that to actually do measurements to see exactly what it is that you want to have. From a adjustment standpoint. It's not something that you really want to do without knowing what's actually going on. So there's 5 separate PEQs. You turn them on and off just by clicking on the button right here in front. So this is your standard look of that subwoofer without any PEQs applied. Here we can add in a few of these that are preset in the system. The next tab is a limiter. There's really no user adjustability in here. This is, again, just a protection circuitry built in for the amplifier. It is something that can be adjusted. However, the factory settings, I wouldn't change anything from there. Finally, we have a high-pass output. Now, this allows you to take either the balanced input or the unbalanced input on the back of the subwoofer and adjust a high-pass output. There's both an unbalanced and a balanced output on the subwoofer as well. So you could run a full range signal in. That's what I'm doing in my desktop situation here, and I have a pair of powered monitors that I use for my recording and playback and monitoring of what I do on the desktop here. So I'm taking a full range signal from my little USB box, running it into the S10 balanced inputs, and then I put a high pass on because I've got larger monitors with 8-inch woofers here. I'm running them down to 60 hertz. I can change that slope. What's nice is that the screen here really shows you, what's happening on anything that you do. If I take it off, it'll just pass full range back out again. The standard setup when you receive the woofer is that the high pass is off. So you could daisy chain multiple S10 powards together without making any adjustments at all. If you do want to use this with some monitors or another amplifier that's going to run some other speakers and cross it over, then you just turn that on, put your slider wherever you want to have your crossover slope at. So if it's at 40, 60, 70, whatever you want to do, you can also do that on the counter on the side right here. So you can make 1 hertz increment adjustments, and then you can also, again, as I mentioned, you can change your delay. Finally, the delay here allows you to add delay so that you can make sure that your main channels are perfectly in sync with your subwoofer when they arrive at your listening position. That's what this allows you to do right here. Up top, you can save these settings from a file. You can also load settings to a file, and then you can also just hit reset to default settings. So we'll say, yep, let's set everything back to factory. So here's our low pass filter at 125 hertz. Got our subsonic at 25. These are the factory PEQs. So you can see exactly how it comes from the factory. These are your factory limiters. And then, of course, the high pass, as I mentioned, when you receive the woofer, it will automatically be set to high pass off. Next thing would be if I want to load. So if I've saved my settings, I can also reload settings from a file. And here we've got preset. I have on a Wisdom S10 preset, so I can just say OK, and it will load that back in. And so now I've got my high pass in there, I've got my PEQs, my subsonics, everything that I had done while I was playing around with this at my desktop here is now loaded onto the unit. This kind of shows you your software. And that is really all there is to this. I'm going to walk through some of the inputs on here. We've got our unbalanced ins and out, our menu system, our balanced inputs, and our balanced outputs. You can see that we also have the USB connector on the back side here where you can hook up your computer to run your GUI. Power switch is on the bottom corner, and we've got our on-off auto switch, and also our high-level, low-level switch depending on your inputs. Now we're going to walk through the menu system. By getting the menu, you just have to click the volume control on the back, and that will allow you to adjust level. You can adjust your high-pass filter and also the slope, or you can disable that feature. It will come preset bypassed, so it's a full-range output. The next thing that you do is you double click, and that gets you back to the menu again. There's also a low pass frequency for the subwoofer system. That allows you to be adjusted from 40 hertz all the way up to 125 hertz. You can also select that slope from 12 to 24 dB. Next is our phase. We can offset that up to 180 degrees in 1 degree increments. Finally, we have our high pass delay, which allows us to delay the outputs to the other speakers along with a subsonic filter. And you can adjust that frequency from 25 up to 40 hertz, and you can also select the slope of 12 or 24 dB for your subsonics. Finally, we have our PEQ. We have 5 different PEQs. You can enable that. You can choose any frequency, any Q, and also plus or minus, and then you can turn each one of them off through the Mac menu system on the back here. Then you can save to your computer,